Once upon a time, in the land of mystery and intrigue, there lived a man whose origins were as enigmatic as a riddle. His name was Saito Dosan, a figure shrouded in uncertainty. Like a cloud veiling the moon. Legend whispered that his father, known as Nagai Shinzaemon no Jo, or by the alias of Matsunami Shoguro, was a samurai of noble lineage. But fate, capricious as ever, had other plans for young Dosan. Circumstances unknown led his father down a different path, and he became a ronin, a wandering samurai without a master. But the story of Dosan did not end there. Fate had another twist in store for him, like a comical plot twist in a grand theatrical performance. At the tender age of 11, he found himself within the hallowed halls of Kyoto's Myokaku Temple. Donning the name Horenbo as he embarked on a journey to become a Buddhist monk. 20 years passed, and the winds of change blew fiercely in Dosan's life. With a leap of faith, he bid farewell to his monk's robe and embraced a different calling, one that would see him traverse the realms of commerce. He became the husband of Nara Matahachi, the daughter of a prominent oil merchant, and thus began his extraordinary transformation into an oil trader. But Dosan was no ordinary merchant. Oh no! He possessed a charm and wit that could woo even the most skeptical customers. With a gleam in his eye and a silver tongue, he would proclaim, "I pour oil through a hole the size of a penny without spilling a drop. If any oil spills, you won't have to pay." And just like that, the masses flocked to him, drawn by the magic of his words and the promise of a spill-free transaction. Yet, fate, ever the trickster, had one final twist in store for our unconventional hero. In a fateful encounter during his travels, a samurai, with a glint of admiration in his eyes, uttered the words that would change Dosan's course forever. "With your skills, you could become a great warrior, a samurai," the samurai exclaimed. And so, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, Dosan's warrior spirit was reignited. He bid adieu to his lucrative oil trade, casting aside his merchant's garb in favor of the way of the spear and the art of the musket. Through relentless training and unwavering determination, he honed his skills to perfection. Ascending to the ranks of a true samurai, a dream fulfilled against all odds. From a mysterious monk to an oil merchant and finally a masterful warrior. The tale of Saito Dosan unfolded like a delightful comedy, blending elements of fate, humor, and the unyielding spirit of a man who defied expectations. And as the curtains drew close on his extraordinary life, the echoes of his exploits resounded through the ages, reminding us that sometimes the most remarkable stories are the ones that defy categorization and follow the unpredictable whims of destiny. You see, the tale of Saito Dosan was as twisty as a pretzel and as puzzling as a Rubik's Cube. He didn't always go by that name, oh no. The moniker Dosan came into play much later in his life when he decided to retire and seek solace within the walls of a serene temple. It was during this time, as he embraced the life of a recluse, that he adopted the name Dosan. But wait, there's more. Rumor has it that he also went by the names Saito Toshimasa and Saito Hidetatsu. It seems our protagonist couldn't quite make up his mind when it came to his own identity. But the story doesn't end there, my friends. Before his temple-dwelling days, young Dosan was known as Minamaru, a name that resonated with the spirit of his youth. And when he embarked on his oil trading adventures, he proudly proclaimed himself as Yamazakiya, a moniker that exuded the essence of his entrepreneurial spirit. But wait, there's yet another twist. As fate wove its intricate tapestry, Dosan found himself donning the armor of a samurai, serving under a noble lord. And with this transition, he couldn't resist the temptation of yet another name change. The mystery deepens as to why our protagonist chose the name, Saito, to grace his newly adopted surname. Some say it was an homage to his father's lineage, the illustrious Matsumiwa family. Others speculate that it was simply a stroke of serendipity, a name that resonated with his inner samurai spirit. So, dear audience, we find ourselves entangled in a web of aliases and hidden identities. From Minamaru to Yamazakiya, from Saito Dosan to Saito to Shimasa, our protagonist danced through life, shedding names like a snake shedding its skin. In the end, one thing remains certain amidst this whirlwind of nomenclature: Saito Dosan, or whatever name he may choose, was a man of many faces and countless stories. And while the reasons behind his name changes may forever remain a mystery, one thing is for sure: his tale will forever tickle our curiosity and leave us chuckling at the comical complexities of his ever-changing identity. Our hero, known as Saito Dosan, initially served under the banner of the esteemed Lord Nagai Nagahiro, a formidable warrior of the Toki clan, who held the position of Shugo Dai, the deputy governor, in the Mino province. How did he end up in the service of the Nagai clan, you ask? Well, it all started with a little help from his temple connections. You see, young Saito Dosan, or should we say, Nishimura Kankuro at the time, had a bit of a spiritual detour before donning the armor of a samurai. But destiny had other plans for him. With his martial prowess and undeniable talent, Dosan caught the eye of Toki Yoriaki, the second son of the Mino province lord, Toki Yoritaka. Now, Mino province was in quite a pickle, with internal conflicts plaguing the land since the tumultuous events of the Onin War. In 1525, a rebellion led by Nagai Nagahiro shook the stability of the Toki clan, leaving them in a precarious position. Though the Toki clan still held the title of Shugo, the real power rested firmly in the hands of Nagai Nagahiro. This presented a bit of a problem for our ambitious protagonist. In 1527, the tension escalated within the Toki clan as a power struggle erupted between Toki Yoriaki and his older brother, Toki Yoritaki, also known as Toki Masayori. Sensing an opportunity, Saito Dosan aligned himself with Toki Yoriaki, resulting in the exile of Toki Yoritaki and solidifying Dosan's position as a trusted retainer. But that's not all, my friends. Dosan managed to secure himself a prestigious position by eliminating his own master, the meddlesome Nagai Nagahiro. In 1530, Dosan committed the deed, and from the ashes, he emerged as Nagai Shinkoro Norihide, As fate would have it, in 1538, another stroke of good fortune befell our cunning protagonist. The esteemed deputy governor of higher rank, Nagai Noriyoshi, unfortunately met his demise. Seizing the opportunity, Dosan adopted the illustrious Saito surname, proudly proclaiming himself as Saito Shinkoro Masamune, thus elevating his own status in the realm. And so, dear audience, we witness the transformation of a man. From Nishimura Konkuro to Nagai Shinkoro Norihide, and finally, to Saito Shinkoro Masamune. Through guile, martial prowess, and a knack for seizing opportunities, Saito Dosan forged his path in the tumultuous world of samurai politics, leaving a trail of ever-changing names and a legacy that tickles the imagination. Once upon a time in the turbulent land of Mino, the ambitions of Saito Dosan, who had finally grasped the position of the Saito clan's deputy governor, knew no bounds. His dreams were about to become a reality, and nothing could stand in his way. At that time, Mino province was in a state of flux, with Toki Yoriaki having ousted his brother Toki Yoritaki, assuming the role of the de facto guardian. However, the situation remained unstable, with conflicts within the Toki clan entangling neighboring clans such as the Asakura and Rakaku. Yet, gradually, the situation began to settle. In 1536, Toki Yoriaki officially became the guardian, bringing about a semblance of peace within the Toki clan. But in 1541, Saito Dosan suddenly poisoned Toki Yorimitsu, the younger brother of Toki Yoriaki. This act became the catalyst for Dosan to turn against Toki Yoriaki. In 1542, he launched an attack on Yoriaki's stronghold, Okusaka Castle, and banished Toki Yoriaki and his son, Toki Yoritsugu, to Awari province. However, Toki Yoriaki, feeling betrayed by Dosan, wasn't about to take this lying down. With the support of Oda Nobuhide, the father of Oda Nobunaga, and Asakura Kagetaka, Yoriaki sought to reclaim the castles of Ibi Kitakata and Katsute and restore the prestigious Toki clan's rule over Mino province. In 1547, Oda Nobuhide himself marched into Mino, marking the beginning of the Battle of Kanoguchi. Dosan, entrenched within his current castle, Inabayama Castle, prepared to face the enemy head-on. Though Oda Nobuhide led a formidable army, Inabayama Castle lived up to its reputation as an impregnable fortress. It wouldn't fall easily. As dusk approached, and whether it was a strategic retreat or a change of heart, it remains uncertain. But at that moment, Dosan's troops surged forth and caught Oda Nobuhide off guard. Oda Nobuhide suffered a heavy blow, losing his brother Oda Nobuyasu and a significant number of soldiers. Barely escaping with his life, he retreated in disarray. Forced by the failure of the Battle of Kanoguchi, Oda Nobuhide, who had been eyeing Mino province with Toki Yoriaki as his puppet, had no choice but to seek reconciliation with Saito Dosan. In the following year, 1548, having made peace with Oda Nobuhide, Saito Dosan arranged for his daughter, Kicho, to marry Oda Nobunaga, the eldest son of Oda Nobuhide. This alliance solidified their newfound truce. As a result, in 1552, Toki Yoriaki was once again exiled, and Saito Dosan completely seized control of Mino province, reigning as its supreme ruler. And so, dear listeners, we witness the audacious rise of Saito Dosan, the conqueror of Mino, navigating treacherous alliances, battles, and a touch of deceit to achieve his grand ambition. Let me tell you a hilarious tale of Saito Dosan's daughters, who hilariously became the legitimate wives of influential men, one after another. Saito Dosan didn't simply climb the ladder to become the ruler of Mino province with his extraordinary foresight alone. Being an outsider in the Toki clan, he needed strong connections to gain recognition from those above him. And so, he came up with a brilliant plan, marrying off his daughters strategically to solidify his own power. First, in his quest to control Mino, he married his daughters to influential figures like Inaba Sadamichi, who served the Toki clan, and the sons of Toki Yoriaki. By doing so, he gained their trust and slowly but surely ingratiated himself within the heart of Mino. But that wasn't all. Saito Dosan used the same tactic of marrying off his daughters to politically significant partners to form alliances with neighboring countries. One famous example is Kicho, who married Oda Nobunaga. It wasn't uncommon during the Warring States period to marry off daughters as a testament to alliances. And here comes the hilarious twist. Saito Dosan, known for his cunning wit, gave Kicho a small dagger, saying, "If Oda Nobunaga truly lives up to his reputation as a fool, you might need this to save your life." To which Kicho, a spirited daughter, replied, "Father, I might end up taking your life instead." Talk about a hilarious exchange. Saito Dosan sighed with relief as he sent off Kicho, secretly hoping that she might even eliminate Oda Nobunaga. Oh, the mischievous laughter that must have echoed through his mind. And so, dear listeners, with wit, charm, and a dash of comedy, Saito Dosan's daughters became pawns in his political game. Maneuvering through strategic marriages and amusing dialogues, all in pursuit of his ultimate goal of securing his power in Mino province. Allow me to present the uproarious tale of Saito Dosan and the post-conquest succession debacle. Saito Dosan's conquest of Mino province was a long and arduous battle. It took him approximately 20 years to enter Mino and oust the Toki clan, becoming the de facto ruler. And it took about 30 years to gain complete control over Mino. In 1554, Saito Dosan decided to pass on his family's leadership to his eldest son, Saito Yoshiyuki. It was a mere 2 years after he had supposedly completely subdued Mino. Now, you might think that Saito Dosan retired to a peaceful life in his castle called Sagayama Castle, now Gifu City in Gifu Prefecture. But no, he couldn't simply enjoy retirement. Instead, Saito Dosan developed a deep affection for his grandchildren from his legitimate wife, such as Maguroshiro and Kiichiro, more than his own son, Saito Yoshiyuki. He even began contemplating the removal of Saito Yoshiyuki from the succession line. Interestingly, there were suspicions surrounding the birth of Saito Yoshiyuki. Although it remains a popular rumor, It is said that the period between Saito Dosan taking Toki Yoriaki's mistress, Fukayoshi, as his concubine and the birth of Saito Yoshiyuki was remarkably short. There were whispers that Saito Yoshiyuki might not be the son of Toki Yoriaki, but rather the child of Saito Dosan. Some even claim that someone purposely planted this idea in Saito Yoshiyuki's mind. With Saito Dosan's cold demeanor towards Saito Yoshiyuki and these doubts in mind, Saito Yoshiyuki began suspecting that, perhaps my real father is Toki Yoriaki, and Saito Dosan is the true enemy. However, there is another side to this story. It is said that Saito Dosan's dictatorial rule and his interference in politics, despite successfully seizing power in Mino, had left many influential figures dissatisfied. They believed that by eliminating Saito Dosan and supporting Saito Yoshiyuki, they could put an end to his tyranny and potentially gain some power for themselves. So, even after passing on the family leadership, Saito Dosan's influence remained strong. Some even argue that he had never truly handed over the reins to Saito Yoshiyuki. Regardless, in accordance with the desires of the influential figures in Mino, Saito Yoshiyuki took action in 1555. And the first victims were Saito Dosan's beloved brothers. In the midst of this tumultuous father-son conflict, the Battle of Nagara River erupted in 1556 between Saito Dosan and his army of 2,500 soldiers and Saito Yoshiyuki's overwhelming force of 17,500 soldiers. There were hardly any supporters for Saito Dosan among the Toki clan's retainers. Despite Saito Dosan's plea for reinforcements from his son-in-law, Oda Nobunaga, they didn't arrive in time. Saito Dosan met his demise in battle. It is said that he regretted misjudging Saito Yoshiyuki's brilliant strategies, realizing that he had mistaken his son's abilities and cunning. He was 63 years old at the time of his death. After Saito Dosan's passing, the relationship between Saito Yoshiyuki and Oda Nobunaga soured. And in the midst of this strained situation, Saito Yoshiyuki tragically died at the young age of 34 in 1561. His son, Saito Ryuoki, inherited the family leadership. However, in 1567, Inabayama Castle was attacked by Oda Nobunaga, leading to the downfall of the Saito clan. And thus concludes the uproarious tale of Saito Dosan, his family's succession dispute, and the eventual downfall of the Saito clan at the hands of internal strife and external forces. Let me humorously depict the tale of Saito Dosan and the notion that he was not alone in his endeavors. The dramatic conquest of Mino province has long been attributed to the legendary figure of Saito Dosan, symbolizing the topsy-turvy nature of the Warring States period. But hold on tight, because this theory is undergoing a hilarious revision. It seems that Saito Dosan was not the lone hero of this tale, after all. Evidence suggesting that Saito Dosan had accomplices can be found in the Rakaku Shote Jusho document. It's a letter from Rakaku Shote, the lord of Omi province, where it is said that Toki Yoriaki sought refuge. This Rakaku Shote Jusho letter cancels the proposed marriage between Saito Yoshiyuki's daughter and Shote's child. The reason for calling off the marriage is jaw-droppingly hilarious. It reveals that Saito Yoshiyuki's grandfather, in other words, Saito Dosan's father, was a former monk who cleverly took advantage of the chaos in Mino to climb the social ladder. It also spills the beans that Saito Yoshiyuki's father, that's right, Saito Dosan himself, killed his lord and snatched his position. So, if we look at the Mino province conquest through the lens of this letter, it turns out that Saito Dosan, after leaving the monastic life, served the Nagai family, eventually rising to become one of the 3 chief retainers of the Toki clan. As a result, he even adopted the name Nagai Shinseimon no Jo. It is believed that Saito Dosan inherited the family leadership in 1533 after the death of his father, Nagai Shinseimon no Jo. In other words, according to this theory, we have not just one but 2 Saito Dosans, a father and his son, engaging in a 2-generation-long conquest drama of Mino province. Talk about a family affair. Let me humorously narrate the story of Saito Dosan and Akechi Mitsuhide. It's a family affair, folks. Saito Dosan and Akechi Mitsuhide were said to be distant relatives. You won't believe it, but Akechi Mitsuhide's father, Akechi Mitsuhide no Kami, had a sister named Kamina no Keita, and she happened to be the lawful wife of none other than Saito Dosan himself. And guess what? Their lovely union blessed them with a daughter named Keicho, who would later become Oda Nobunaga's esteemed wife, Nohime. Talk about keeping it in the family. Since Keicho was Akechi Mitsuhide's cousin, we've got a hilarious trio of relatives: Saito Dosan, Akechi Mitsuhide, and Oda Nobunaga, all connected by blood. Family reunions must have been a riot. Oh, and here's another twist. The Akechi clan supposedly served under Saito Dosan as loyal retainers. That's right. Akechi Mitsuhide himself was said to be in the service of none other than Saito Dosan. Talk about a complicated work dynamic. But hold on to your seats, folks. During this time, Saito Dosan was facing a deepening conflict with his son, Saito Yoshiyuki. And who does Akechi Mitsuhide choose to support? You guessed it, Saito Dosan. It's a classic case of family loyalty, or maybe Mitsuhide just enjoyed the dramatic family drama. However, fate had a twist in store. In 1556, the infamous Battle of Nagara River erupted, and poor Saito Dosan found himself on the losing side against his own son, Saito Yoshiyuki. He was defeated and, alas, met his untimely end. Talk about a family feud gone wrong. As for Akechi Mitsuhide, the head of the Akechi clan at the time, Akechi Mitsuhide no Kami, had also sided with his lord, Saito Dosan. Consequently, their stronghold, Akechi Castle, fell under the assault of Saito Yoshiyuki's forces. After enduring a 2-day siege by Saito Yoshiyuki's loyal warriors, Akechi Castle crumbled like a house of cards. Akechi Mitsuhide, entrusted with the task of rebuilding the Akechi clan, managed to escape. But sadly, others, including Akechi Mitsuhide no Kami himself, chose to take the honorable way out and ended their lives. With his lord, Saito Dosan, gone, Akechi Mitsuhide embarked on a journey of wandering, not quite sure where life would take him. Family ties can be both comical and tragic, don't you think?